these meetings? I know there's a couple posted or the stream is saved to YouTube, but just give me a sense of what to expect or.
That's a great question, James. That was one of the topics tonight. So it kind of bounces around between what people are working on, different projects. Sometimes we have guest speakers. Sometimes we try to troubleshoot some problems or learn some aspect of ROS or our system.
Okay. Have any of you guys, I'm guessing maybe Kyler, but studied Matt Reimer's? It was an autonomous grain cart application. I believe he used ArduPilot or whatever. You know, it's sort of a, I think he had a thread on DIY drones, and he also has some stuff in GitHub, but it seemed like he sort of leveraged some of the, like the RC car or even the quadcopter code and sort of made it fit his application, which was to drag a grain cart around the field and meet the combine. And I think I'd seen Kyler had kind of some joystick control on his John Deere, but I think he'd also worked on the cart. And so I guess, you know, that's like the stage I'm at, that's a bucket list achievement if I get there. So I'm trying to figure out what I want to do for a first project. So I don't mean to derail your meeting, but so I'll be chiming in. So for example, if I want to get feedback on, let's just say it's like a simple project where I would somebody running, you know, a 16-year-old planter, corn planter, would see a rock, and when they think they pass over either the GPS or the toolbar on a separate, maybe a Galaxy tablet, they hit one of the rows, and that would mark a rock. Right. So I guess that I'm just kind of mapping this out on the fly. I think it would require capturing a GPS stream coming off the Case IH, and then some application running on the tablet, perhaps a node, very green, that would store the spatial coordinates of the field event, in this case a rock or whatever. And you could have a couple different levels of rock. One, you know, you could have like three sizes, like softball, volleyball, whatever, and bring a backhoe, I guess. But then later the point would be to use some kind of GPS guidance to get to those rocks quickly instead of kind of traversing the whole field. I'm just throwing that out there as maybe my first project, because the initial stuff would just be contacting the manufacturer's GPS data stream, and then having a second application or ROS node listening to that, and also listening to keypad input. So I'll try to write something up. So just in general, I'm sorry, I'm just totally taking over, but if I wanted some feedback on how to do that, I'm going to try going off speaker here for a second. I don't know if that's me feeding back, but so on ROS Ag, would I just make like a new thread or whatever?
Yeah, there's a projects channel. So on the left-hand side of the Slack screen, there's a little plus sign next to the channels, and then you can see all of the channels that are in the Slack group. And one of them are the projects. And so you could write what you're thinking about doing, what your use case is, and then people can respond there.
Okay, yeah, I see that. I think right now I'm only seeing channels I subscribe to. Maybe that's what's going on. I'll work with that, but
have to click there's a little plus arrow next to the channels in Slack.
Okay, yeah, I'm on rosag.slack.com, and I see.
You see the word channels?
Yep.
And then just right to the right of that, there's a plus arrow. Oh, that's, yeah.
Okay, so I don't see that. I do see it on like a direct messages and an app. So I am logged in, but
Yep.
I wonder
Click the channels word, then that'll open up all the channels.
Okay. Channels I can join. Is there? Scroll down here, maybe at the very end. I don't see a. I'm sorry, but I don't see a plus or an ad or.
No, just on the word channels. If you click that,
no, I did.
Allow you to. And does it open up a new window?
Yeah, it does. It well, it just same browser window, just a new screen, but it's basically a browse channels, and then I can show all, sort channels I can join. There's a list, but unless I'm a complete backwater idiot, I don't see like an ad or.
So if you see, or it says browse channels, and then do you see a list of channels that you can scroll through in the middle?
Yep.
And then one of them is projects, and then you can click projects, and that will take you to that channel.
And then if you go all the way to the bottom, it'll say, do you want to actually join this channel? I think at the bottom of the screen, the new screen.
Yeah, I see the join. Yep. Okay. So basically, that's sort of a mashup of project suggestions.
Yeah, different people are working on different projects in there. And you can see.
That's yeah, I got it now. So like some of the ones that are more further along, like the Mahindra 4010 or the MicroTrack, I think I've made comments in both, but that's sort of another level of, I guess, maybe paid up or paid subscription or donation or something.
Yeah, like if there's a lot of activity, if you want to create your own channel, we can create a channel for that specific project.
Okay. Well, all right. I think that works. I was just having trouble figuring out where I would pose. There's the random one too. I guess that's maybe more random news and hey, somebody's got these servos on sale kind of stuff. But anyway. So I see Sam, Matt, Jeff, myself, and Kyler.
Yep. And so generally we can go around the room and talk about what people are working on and get updates. I don't know if, Sam, did you have any fun with your IMU there?
That is true. So actually, I have made some progress. It's hooked up to the Arduino, and I started getting the data in terms of gyro and the temperature at this point. I'm going through the the data. So it's for the MPU 9250, and it's just a lot of information. What I'm trying to get at actually that if we could use any of the IMUs, which is a little bit cheaper with the IMU sealed and stuff, and if we can get the data right, at least for the experiments, I know that just for the practical applications, probably you might need better grade, the IMU and GPS. But just for the experiments, I mean, I'm getting the data and I'm actually reading it directly from a Python. So it means that my host computer is reading it and just sending the signals. I'm just getting the gyro data, getting the temperature data, and I am actually kind of looping it. So its flashes like about every half a second. So it has the good frequency too. And actually, I'm happy with it because I don't have to flash anything on Arduino. It means that I change my code directly on the computer, and it just starts working as soon as you save it, and you just run it, and it connects to the Arduino, and then it talks to the IMU over the I2C, and then it just gets you the data. And I'm using the callback. It means that, if you, once you get the data, it just callbacks, like our ROS callback, how it works, So as soon as it gets the data, it just, fits to the callback calculates it, and then spits out, any data that you are actually getting from the sensor, and just publishes it. So it's a lot of fun. I got diverted, just because I was working with my edger and trimmer, and then it got broken. So I got diverted because I had to actually come up with some design. So I designed, to fix my trimmer and edger, actually, and then it worked. So I 3D printed the whole thing, including the design, and it worked really well. So I lost a little bit of time, like about 1.5, 2 days there. But other than that, I think I'm happy that I'm getting the data. Our main purpose, like I said before too, my main purpose is to drive the linear actuators through the PWMs, so that we can control the brakes, the acceleration, and also, if we could, maybe a steering. But I think may work very well, at least for the experiments, for the sake of it. Like if you have any small vehicle, we should be able to put it in. It spits out the PWMs really fine. You can write it to the NEP and Arduino. I actually started working with even the Nano, and Nano works perfectly fine. I mean, I was surprised, and it's got a few PWM pins. Anyways, you can use the Uno, obviously, rather than the Nano, but Nano works really fine. And once you flash the standard formata, you should be able to talk it like how you do it through the Arduino Uno. So I think it's just kind of promising to see that. I wanted to wrap into the ROS node, and I wanted to actually spit out the PWMs through one of these, the PWM pins on the Nano and on the Uno both. And just to see in kind of in proof of concept that if I can run any linear actuator through it, or probably a servo or something similar. So I wanted to get to that point.
Do you run into any space limitations when you're connected through the Arduino like that?
No. And that's
nice.
Yeah, because I'm using the host computer. So what it's just doing is just sending the call like over the serial, and then just gets the data. And then I believe that as soon as I receive the data on the host computer, it's up to me now, and I have all the computational powers available at my host computer because that's my PC, right? So basically, once I get the data, I'm all set to do actually anything. So I'm not limited by any of the computational power or the memory.
Okay. That's great. I've been using the Uno, and it worked okay as long as I was just receiving and then controlling the servos. But as soon as I put in a publish, like to publish a node back out to ROS, then I started to run into memory problems.
Exactly.
I switched over to this little guy. It's the Teensy 3.2.
Yeah, the Teensy. Yeah,
it's got a lot of I/O on there. It looks pretty interesting chip. But I think that'll be interesting.
Yeah, and the reason I'm using the Arduino because right now the PyMata and the standard formata actually requires the Arduino. However, you can write your own drivers and whatever you want to do with it. But I don't want to spend time on something that's not just out there. So I just wanted to use something out there available, and I think, and that's why I'm using this, just because I don't have to deal with the ROS bridge and the ROS serial, so that I can actually directly connect it to the sensor, And in most cases, I'm not going to use this to get the sensing data. I just wanted to write the pin data like a PWM out. So that I can, the main purpose is just to actuate the either the linear actuator or the servos and stuff, So I think I'm probably should work fine, unless I get into the trouble later on. Up till now, my actual experience with it is quite optimistic and positive.
Awesome. That's great to hear.
But I'll keep you guys posted. Yeah. The one other thing that I'm doing is actually writing up the small the documents. I wanted to actually write small documents for the farmers, and I wanted to publish that as in like kind of an documents for the techie farmers kind of a deal. So it's like everything's related to the ROS, just the small documents that might help someone, So I'll post that to our actually Google, the document directory.
Awesome. That'd be great to see. That's an interesting approach. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. Thanks, Matt.
Jeff, do you make any progress on your automated lawnmower?
Can everybody hear me? I have a new microphone here.
It's a little low.
Let's see. Maybe it'll. I'm sitting outside too, so I don't know if it's going to work. So I'm Jeff Sampson. I'm with Dan Foss in Plymouth, Minnesota, and we're trying to build devices to help our customers out make autonomous vehicles. So we've built a couple autonomous tractors for showing off to people. And at the moment, I keep playing with sensors, various kinds. And the last couple of days, I set up one of the virtual machines. We were running VMware, and somebody said we're going to switch over to VirtualBox, which is the free one. So I set that up on a Windows machine, and got ROS and Gazebo in all of our code running on it. So that's kind of where I'm at right at the moment. Oh, as far as my lawnmower, I bought some ramps to load it in my car now, and I bought a battery a couple weeks ago for it. So I'm getting closer to doing something with that.
I'm curious about the way that you're connecting into the steering with the linear actuator. I've got a lawnmower that may have a similar type of mechanism, so I was going to take some pictures and post that. It's back in Washington, but I'm going to be heading back there in a couple days.
I was looking at pictures on the internet of how the steering works on mine, and I wasn't real happy with the way the linkage is set up, but I can probably make something work. If I have to, I'll just drop the whole front end off and make a new one for it, and then put the actuator on it. So I'll see when I get that far.
Awesome. Great. Kyler's listening in. I don't know if he's still in that environment, but welcome to jump in anytime. One of the discussions I wanted to have tonight is a little bit about these community meetings and what you guys think about that, the structure and different things that we could add. Some ideas would be to have actual, like maybe some coding sessions where we're learning about different nodes. We could share a screen and then go over some of the coding, or more guest speakers or different topics if you guys are interested in those. Or what do you think would provide the most value to the community?
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you, Matt. The small coding sessions, learning the ROS through the examples. If I have something, if you have something, if anyone else wants to share something, we can always take like about 25, 30 minutes, like kind of a small tutorial session, which actually addresses what we're doing in terms of coding, what we're doing in terms of learning the ROS. Because especially when I see the ROS has a great learning curve, it's just not as simple as one can think. I mean, once you know it, it has a lots and lots of power, obviously. And then you want it to do every small things also with the ROS. But to get into it and break through the initial barrier of learning, people tend to, just not be very patient about it and then just leave it in between or just don't do it. So I don't think so. We wanted to end up, into that situation. So it means that we have to actually learn ourselves, also actually educate the community, and also actually promote it, like through the small codes and through the small, the examples, practical examples, probably, so that they can start looking into it. And that's where I started. I was thinking about it and say, okay, techie farmers, is actually the appropriate title for the farmers who really wanted to actually do something which may not be as technical as they can be, but at least they can participate into the ROS community meetings. They can actually give their valuable input, because we don't have any use cases without the actual real usage of the agricultural applications. So they don't have to be a coder. They don't have to know how the GPS works, the IMU works. What they can do is they want to actually use it. And if they can provide those use cases, if we can promote them to come over and attend the ROS meetings, and then they can actually, we can speak their language. They can understand the language, which is not highly as technical as we always speak, kind of a deal. It means that they start feeling connected, and then that's the most important part, because like I said, not all the farmers are necessarily interested in the robotics or anything near to what's technical, actually.
She's broken into my office to get my notes.
So that's all input from what I think that what we should do, and I think it's the approach. I think we should think about it.
Jeff or James, do you have any suggestions or what you would like to see in these meetings?
Possibly what someone can do is just say, for a week ahead, say, I want to present this, or it gives you some time to think about it, what you might want to do. And so basically, if people are just thinking ahead and saying, okay, for next week, I'm going to do this or this or this, that might be a reasonable way, or maybe more case studies saying, I need this or this or this to make it work. I guess I haven't thought about it.
Sorry, I'm just going to use those examples, but sorry, Matt. Yeah, so a couple things for Jeff. First of all, I got to work on my background. That map, you have the look of a man that's intent on world domination. I like it, and it's a good start. And then I'm also curious about your autonomous mower. I know it's maybe been discussed, and it's probably in a thread somewhere, but I haven't stumbled on it. That was actually another project that I thought would be, nothing's straightforward for me at this point because I'm such a rook, but if I can just try this feature once. So this is coming up for sale locally. I kind of gathered you were doing a tractor style. This is an older zero turn. I think it's going to go fairly cheap. What intrigues me about this one is it's got stacked barrel displacement hydro pumps on it. And so I kind of envision throwing away this monkey dongle joystick and just stubbing servos onto the stub shaft sticking out of the pump housing. So, and I could use it to mow in the meantime, but so that's also another thing. It'd be a good, I think I'd run it fairly economically with, a single Arduino and kind of Wi-Fi in the yard kind of a thing. But so anyway, my share, don't know how to unshare. Oh, there it is. Okay. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. And then as far as coding examples and whatever, yeah, that'd be fine for me. I'm a bit of a sponge mode right now, so anything is good. I'm jotting stuff down. I'll go Google it later. So that's the kind of the mode I'm in, but I appreciate you guys sharing, and you're all way up on the curve compared to where I'm at. But again, I'm talking too much, so I see Kyler's on. I'll let him Tyler, you're up.
Uh-oh. Um, am I intelligible now? Can you hear me? Okay. I'll take requests if anyone has something they want to hear about. I am, this is off topic a little bit. I'm interested if anyone would travel. I guess anyone else. I've had visitors here. Al and Matt came a while ago, but I was trying to think of organizing something else to come and learn a little bit, some hands-on things, because I know I had a hard time getting started with Ross, and getting a little hands-on experience makes a big difference. So that was just on my mind.
Oh, another thing that I'm planning on working on, I was going to build a remote control unit. So I got some of the radios like Kyler has, those long range radios. And on mine, I was going to put some joysticks and some push buttons and switches on my remote unit, and basically pattern it after the commercial unit that we bought for our tractor. It was like a $4,000 box that we bought, and I can do it for, like $100 or something to do this. So, and since everything at Danfoss is done with CAN, I had to get a different receiver so I can do CAN coming out of my receiver now. So that's something that maybe by next week I'll have something I can show off at least the parts and give an idea of what I'm trying to do on that. If you go back through the minimum viable products, and we first started talking about it, and I said, well, first of all, you need an e-stop, and said, by the way, here's all the things you need to put on it. I had the whole list of things there that I wanted to do. I don't know, I find it real hard to search back through and find stuff, but that's someplace I wrote down at one point what I thought should go into something like this.
Hey, Jeff, before I forget, I thought of you recently. I was looking through the Pixie Multi documentation, and I know you're aware that there are two CAN bus connectors on there. I didn't find how to use them, but it seems like that should be forthcoming. I did, however, just today receive from Germany Tinkerforge CAN interface. I thought that was interesting. So the Tinkerforge IMU that I'm using, they also have a CAN interface. So that might help you out. I don't know. Are you, I see a lot of people who are doing, there's a CAN chip where you interface to the CAN and then it comes out logic levels. You hook it up to any microcontroller. So I'm getting over CAN. I've got a bunch of CAN interfaces now, and I'm not using my ungodly expensive Kvaser anymore. I'm using little $30, $60 units. So CAN is becoming a lot less mysterious, and I want to use it more too.
Well, I don't particularly.
Hey Kyler, Jim, do you recall maybe 2-3 years ago, I think it was out of Purdue, I believe they called it ISO Blue.
Yep.
It was a
ISO Blue. Yep, is out of OATS, the online or the open source ag technology something, and they are in ISO Blue version 2 now. Yeah, they switched to another platform. They're not using the BeagleBone Black anymore. But yeah, they're still active.
That may have been a mistake. So I thought they were kind of an open source, so it was through a university, but maybe I got to have the wrong one.
No, they are through Purdue. It's there's an open source ag part of Purdue.
Kyler, you're saying that they're still active. I thought that they shut it down, the project, the ISO Blue. I didn't see any updates or anything.
What was the last update you saw? Did you see ISO Blue 2?
No, just ISO Blue. It was probably last year.
Yep. They've got ISO Blue 2 out, so they switched from the BeagleBone to a more specialized industrial something computer. Okay. And then they have some plans for it. And I talked to them about doing some more interpretation of the CAN that's coming off the buses. So we'll see. I haven't followed up with them.
Cool.
In fact, I think I told them I would give them some code that I just found today. So I should should get back in touch.
Cool.
Well, back to the Pixie. Yes, I did know it has CAN interfaces, and I'm actually outputting data over those CAN interfaces now. But they don't support it. They just say, here's the interface. If you want to use it, you can. So you have to go and you have to compile their Linux from scratch and write all your own code to talk to those. But I've got it figured out and working now.
That's right. I think I recall you saying that, and I sent you some code for decoding the CAN off of the John Deere.
I
Right?
looked at that, and the first thing I saw, it said it has a 210-degree offset. I thought, that doesn't make any sense. And I started looking at that, and then I found the actual spec, because you can get the spec for J 1939. Yep. And they're saying north is like 210 degrees, and south is minus 218 degrees or something like that. If you add those together, that's neither 90 degrees or 180 degrees. And finally, after a couple of days, it hit me. That's an unsigned number. Yep. So it's plus and minus 2 billion. So
yep, it's just an offset.
You moved over by 7 places, subtract the 210, that makes it 0 in the middle. So that's how I got that figured out. But
there's a lot of that in J 1939.
Yeah. So I got that part figured out, and I was doing it a different way. The Pixie actually generates a 64-bit float internally, and I'm crunching that down to a 32-bit integer, which is somebody else's. There's like 6 or 7 different formats out there. And that's the one we decided to go with. We're going to use the signed integer number to do that. That gives us 7 decimal places, which is 1 centimeter resolution. So that's what we're playing with at the moment.
Cool.
Does anyone have any questions or areas they're looking for help in?
Well, Kyler, I appreciate your offer to travel. I could maybe work that out. I think I'm sort of just pushing rocks around in a circle right now. So, but I guess, Jeff, if you had some time in a couple of weeks and we're open to showing me maybe your current tractors, or you're in Plymouth, I work in Shakopee during the day. So I'll throw it out there. I'm not trying to invite myself, but.
Well, at the moment, we don't have any tractors. One of them's in Denmark, and the other one's down in Ames. They sent one up from Ames, and we modified it and sent it back down there. So at the moment, we don't have any tractors.
Oh. Okay.
We're planning to get some more equipment, but we don't have it in yet. I can show you lots of movies and pictures, but they keep saying, "Oh, don't tell anybody what we're doing." So they're willing to show everybody, but I'm not allowed to do that. So I can't show it off too much.
It's almost like you're working with DARPA.
Well, no, not exactly.
Okay. I guess the only thing I think was somebody, I know it's hard to maybe scratch up an agenda, but I think that might be helpful. And who knows, it might spur other ideas. Or the way I work or try to work is I would probably try to come prepared with more intelligent questions, if that makes any sense. But yeah, so you were asking earlier about input on meeting formats and whatnot, so that would be my input. Yeah. And are you the kind of honcho on this, Matt, or?
Kind of what?
The head honcho on the meetings, yes. Or?
Yeah, no, okay. A member. I'm a community member. I like to play with robots, and so I'm excited that other people want to play with robots. So I'm a little bit of a nerd. And I don't like to work with robots by myself. It's not as fun. It's funner if you can work on a project, share what's going on, and get feedback, and then it's just a small community right now. I mean, like around my local area, small community. Hard to find people that are doing this type of work.
And so Matt and Sam, I guess I'm kind of over the other two fellows are at. Where are you located? Or just curious.
I'm in Washington State for the summer.
Okay.
And I'm here in Detroit, so I'm near to the Ann Arbor. That's the University of Michigan town. So just
Okay.
right here, so not too far away if you're in Indiana.
Sure, on my way to Kyler's, we could get together. You doing like an Airbnb perhaps, or? No? Okay. Yeah, I'll have to look into USB mic, I think, because it seems like there's quite a delay when it processes my phone into the whatever app. So I'll get that squared away too. Other thing, I guess, I don't know how many greenies are on there like me, but somebody recommended a book. You know, I saw that. I'll probably order that up. But if anybody has like a go-to get started with ROS, or like if you're going to tell your best friend you got to do this, this, and this to get going. I mean, I know a visit like Kyler was suggesting is worth a gold, but just in the meantime, there was kind of a short list of you better have this under your belt, or else get through these basic tutorials, or some kind of resource like that identified would help me at this point. But I'll keep digging either way. But just throwing it out there.
There's a lot of tutorials on the ROS.org website. And then some people are using the Robot Ignite Academy to learn ROS. And that is a pretty good system. They set everything up for you, and then have different tutorials. So there's one that's just basic ROS, learn ROS. Like learn ROS in 5 days. That may be a pretty aggressive pace depending on how much time you have, but it goes through each of the concepts of ROS, and they do a great job of laying it out.
Okay. This is another quick thought off my head, but so I know I've seen talk about simulators, and so with with a lack of hardware, people are waiting for parts and radios, and I'm maybe going to buy this more or whatever. But in the meantime, if you could do have a ROS node running and do give it simulated input and simulated output, and maybe it's as simple as like the old turtle graphics drawing your planting path or something like that. How to get going on that? I think a simulator would be useful for me, or a recommendation on how to go about that.
Yeah, ROS has 2 simulators they use mainly. One of them is a 2D simulator, and they have if you go through the ROS tutorials, that's how you'll learn how to do the keyboard teleop, and you can practice with your teleoping and learn how to make nodes. And then the big simulator is called Gazebo, and that's a 3D simulator.
Okay. Appreciate that, Matt.
And if you get frustrated, ask for help, because I have a much different way of learning, and I had a hard time with all the tutorials and such. So give it a try. If you want some other ideas, I'd be happy to talk with you.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
It takes a while to get ramped up on ROS, so give yourself some time.
Years for some of us.
Just have patience. Just you get through it. But the fundamentals, that you wanted to read, like all the acronyms, and just and everything basic. Basically, what's the node? What's the subscriber? What's the caller? What's the topics? What's the actions? What's the services? And I think I'll just keep reading it every day, kind of a deal, until you get it. And I think it's really, once you get it, it seems intuitive that, okay, yeah, but there is no other way to do it, because there's so much modular. So I'll just keep reading it, and just don't get frustrated if you don't get it for the first time.
Okay. Would it be fair to say it's sort of a open source canvas with some more functionality? I mean, it's kind of this message passing protocol, listening address, that fair or not really? Is CAN so different that, I mean, it's its own standard upon itself, I guess, but.
You can use it that way. When I started, I used it as a message passing infrastructure, and I didn't use it for much else. And in fact, it wasn't until probably this year, end of last year, that I really started using much more of that. So if you just want to look at it as a message passing infrastructure, I say do that. But there are some really important things like transforms that are very powerful parts of ROS. And those were the hardest things for me to understand. So you can use lots of different pieces of it. There are lots of packages for it. So once you get into the packages, there's all sorts of functionality. The big thing is don't get overwhelmed. Pick something you want to do, figure out how to do it. Don't get overwhelmed with all the rest of the stuff that's out there. I got overwhelmed repeatedly.
That's really good advice.
Well, let me jump in.
Yeah, I think I saw your transforms in one of the threads, but are you kind of talking like computer graphics? You know, we're going to rotate and scale a rectangle and that kind of transformers?
Yep. That's the kind of transforms. But the thing that I finally learned, it seems like only weeks ago, I use transforms so that I can say, oh, my IMU is a bad example, but my IMU is saying that I'm moving this fast, or I'm accelerating this fast to my right. Well, what you really want to know is where you're accelerating in the world. Where in the field are you moving more towards? Something like that. So it's a way to go back and forth between perspectives. I think of them as perspectives. So I've got the perspective of the tractor versus the perspective of the field, let's say. So being able to flip back and forth through those is handy. But then, are you familiar with auto steer guidance on large tractors? Is that? Yeah,
I mean, I'm planted with it and stuff. Yeah.
So if you've ever done a setup like on a John Deere, I know, you'll say, well, the antenna is here, so that's my 0 point basically, and then you say, well, how high off the ground is it? And then you'll have to program how far to the right of center or the left of center is it? How far back is the rear axle? How far back is the implement? All those things. All of those things can be captured and manipulated with transforms so that you can start saying things like, well, my GPS antenna says that I'm here. And I want to know, well, my GPS antenna says I'm here. I also know my heading is this. Now, where is my planter? Where in the world is my planter? I know it's 6 feet behind me, but where on the field is my planter? Do I need to be planting, or do I need to have a shutoff? So transforms make all of that very elegant, and so you could keep track of all the geometry and do it all with trigonometry. It's very doable, but it's so much easier once you start understanding the transforms. There's a lot of power there. It's not the first thing I recommend you study.
No, I agree. But I have, I forget who was by Ann Arbor, but I did take it was an advanced graduate level CAD manipulation class, and I've seen some of the parameters you discussed, and so it varies which planner, and if you go to a toolbar versus a trailing and all that. But
Yep.
And just my experience on that is through a Case IH, Pro 700. But yeah, so you mentioned, location, heading, and then, if there's slew also, right? If you're ready to change of heading or whatever, but.
Right. Yep. You'll really want to learn things like what a pose is. So a pose is a position and an orientation, which would give you all those roll, pitch, yaw angles. And then there's odometry, which is your position plus your velocities. And then you've got your accelerations and all this that maybe by the time you get into it, we will have all figured it out and you won't have to think about it very much. But that's a lot of what a bunch of us are spending our time talking about these days. So yeah,
Okay.
knowing where you are is really important and being able to manipulate that.
Hey,
Soen.
Jay. Hey, Kyler. Hey, everyone. Sorry I'm late. I was at the airport. I just got back home from my vacation. Didn't want to miss this one. Hey, Jay.
Jim?
We lost you, Soen. You there?
Hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Now you're back.
Oh, hi.
I think you're back, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I just got back. I didn't want to miss this meeting. I want to know your name first. Jay.
Oh, Jim.
Jim.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Jim
Hey,
Mahoney,
Jim.
yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, what's your purpose for learning ROS? Like, what do you want to do with it?
So I guess I mentioned earlier to Matt and as people joined, but I'm fairly new to the group. I guess my real interest in this, other than I want to see it open. I don't like the Case IH John Deere. John Deere's went full idiot with the 3000 series, and I'm paying for everything. But anyway, a couple of years ago, Matt Reimer, a fellow up in Canada, did an autonomous grain cart, did a really nice job. But I'm gonna quickly just say that I think he used ArduPilot or maybe the ground version, ArduBot or Rover. Anyway, and then second thing that intrigued me or got me going was I stumbled onto Kyler's Planner Bots, and then and so anyway, but it seemed to be quite a different approach. And actually, what Kyler's proposing, you guys are into, obviously, is this ROS, this open source, which I think ArduPilot is also, but as I kind of delved into it, and the message passing and kind of having remote sensors and maybe putting an old router on a machine and having a couple of remote Arduinos running, doing different things, it sort of intrigued me. And my whole goal is, so I'm an engineer by training and day job, but my dad farms in western Minnesota, and I do a lot out there with him. And so I kind of want to start small. I guess my bucket list would be an autonomous combine, but I am fully aware that I'm nowhere near that. So, but anything I think coming up, there would be site-specific spraying. Like I've seen these videos where there's real-time image processing. They're scanning. They can identify a weed versus a soybean. And spray selectively. So I just think it's a reduction of input cost opportunity.
Soen just got second place in identifying weeds and spraying them a couple weeks ago with his robot. Yeah,
so they did do that AgBot. Is that a spring and a fall, or I know they just missed the spring. I missed the spring one.
Oh, they do it just. I don't get it. It's once a year. It's an annual competition.
Okay, but they've had a harvest one. Maybe it's something weird like watermelons or something. But
that was this one. That was the AgBot challenge that just came up. It was both harvest and the weed and feed.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
And I'll talk about the other approaches if you want. Matt Reimer, you had asked about that earlier. Do you want some more information about that?
Well, I'm trying to, based on where I am on the S-curve, learning curve, whatever, I kind of like this open source aspect of what you guys are doing here and talking about, but it helps me, whatever technology I'm looking at, or picking out a TV or whatever, to differentiate things. And so I don't know what he's limiting himself by taking that approach, or obviously I think this ROS being very open, got this community talking, you know, it's a standard, it's got .org, whatever. Or is the RG Pilot, RG Bot, whatever.
RG Rover.
Manson's, yeah. RG Rover, yeah. I think that's what he used for his cart.
Yep.
He started off just moving tractor around the yard. Sorry, I talked too much. Go ahead.
No. I just want to tell you that I've been through, I think, where you are right now. In fact, I bought some APM, some RG Pilot hardware, the Navio 2, and I tried going that direction. I tried to get my head around it, and I just thought, oh, there are so many things I want to do that I don't want to be limited to that. So that's, I'm still, I went back and forth. I went to Ross, I went back to my own code. I've come to Ross, I still use some of my own code. I really like Ross. But you should also know about Ag Open GPS. So Brian Tischler and what he's doing, and that is more of a drop-in, started off as section control for sprayers, and it's he's doing a lot more with it these days. So that is much more of a something you'd run on a Windows laptop and just do something. So I've always wanted capabilities well beyond where I am now, and I don't want to be limited by kind of very specific code. APM and Ag Open GPS are built to do some pretty limited things, which is wonderful because they work. But Ross, you can do anything, and that's where I want to be. So it is a pain, and there is a lot to learn, but I think that's a good thing for you to investigate what is out there and make a decision early on.
I've had the
Great, that's good.
I've had a similar experience, just as Skyler. I've used APM Planner, I mean the Autopilot software. We had a smaller robot earlier, and this year we had a bigger one. One suggestion would be to, like, there's two ways you can do this. Like, if you want to focus on learning ROS and how to manipulate everything else, like the TFs and everything else, and if you have the resources for it, just go get a hardware ready that is already set up, something like a ClearPath, and then, you know, just focus on the ROS part of it. And then if your final goal is to have it working on your own tractors, then you should just start working on the hardware first, and have the hardware completely so that you can have a complete control over your hardware, and then work on the software part. So those are the two options I see for you. Like, I think I spent some time making like a smaller hardware, and then I realized that I'm not going to use this anyway. So why am I wasting my time on this like smaller robot? I should just be using all the time and resources on the bigger one. So that's how I stopped doing what I was doing, and I switched on to the bigger one. I wanted to learn ROS, and at that time it seemed that I had enough time, but I came to know that the time wasn't enough. That ROS takes some time to learn, but if you really want to do something like of your own, like on your own hardware, then have the hardware completely set up and ready to go, and then you can, you know, use ROS and, you know, learn ROS on that hardware. So you'll be the best person to know everything about that robot.
Okay, thanks, Solon.
Yeah.
And what's your geography? Where you from? You're muted, I think.
Soen is here in Indiana with me. He's south in Indianapolis.
Soen, your mic is muted.
Yeah, just what Kyler said. I'm in Indianapolis. My bad. I've been on a long flight, so sorry. I apologize.
Okay, well, this has been very eye-opening, and I'm not wearing a green shirt. Just, I am pretty green to this, but I do appreciate, some of you guys have chewed this dirt, and appreciate your input. So if I get too annoying or pestery, let me know. But kind of how I learn is I just keep pestering.
What's fun about Ross is that at every level you're a beginner. You can study this for 5 years, and there's more stuff to learn that is just it's big.
But and just to add to that, the ROS is so much powerful. It's just the single most powerful tool that if you learn it, you can actually design anything and everything. So just to give you an idea, that's what I heard in 2015, 2016, all the robotics startup in the United States, almost 60 or 70% of them, they've used the ROS under the hood, one way or the other. And ROS, they don't restrict you for any personal usage or commercial usage for it. So they really don't care, but that is the fact. So think about this.
I'm sorry, I think I heard this a couple times. I'm not sure I got it right. Is there something, ClearPad? Did I hear that right? Is that like a emulator or?
ClearPath Robotics?
Path, okay. Oh, ClearPath, okay.
Something like that. I was kind of laughing at Soren saying, get something like a ClearPath. I got a ClearPath, and then I decided to move on to bigger and better things, and it sat in my shed. So I'm also an advocate for starting with hardware that you want to use.
If
It's
you
more
want to
interesting.
learn with software, they already have a pre-developed, like everything is developed for their robots. So, it would be faster than working with your own hardware, because, there's a chance of your hardware, messing up, and then you spend more time troubleshooting your own hardware. And then there's ClearPath. They have their own hardware set up, and there's code for it set up. So, you'll find learning on ClearPath faster than your own hardware. But if ultimately it's the custom hardware that you want to go for, I think that's the route for you.
Come show me how to use this Husky.
I would love to. Let me try. I'll come down there and get it from you.
Great. Well, it's 9 o'clock or 7 o'clock or 12 o'clock, wherever you're from. But thanks for being here tonight. Jim, great that you could join us here tonight. Soen, welcome back to US. Glad your trip home went well.
Thanks, Matt. It was nice. It's never enough, but it was nice. And, I feel refreshed, and I feel more, enthusiastic about working and getting back at it. So.
Good break. All right, you guys have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Okay, see you.